winter's almost over. Well, okay, not really. It's just the beginning of March. Could definitely get worse. But anyway, here we are, and it's time to start thinking about springtime and sitting in the lawn furniture. So you remember from other videos, if you saw them, that I made this chair before I get into YouTubing. So I didn't have any video of that, and I wanted to make a matching one for this. So I'm going to create a video for that. So without any further ado, let's get going with this one, and we'll show you how easy it is to make your own Adirondack chair. Okay, I apologize, it's going to be a little bit shaky. It's going to be handheld. So this is the chair. I just wanted to show you a couple of features of it before we get going. So when I decided I was going to make some of these, I went to a couple of places and looked at ones that other people had made. Bass Pro was one of the ones I went to and looked at. There was another outdoor store that I'm pulling a blank on. Get Ranger. Good. And yeah, basically I measured them and kind of combined their ideas to come up with this one. The hardest part, of course, is to getting this part, the lengths and the angles right, so that you end up with a chair going the way that you want. So the angle of the seat and the back were basically I took from regular Adirondack chairs, also log ones, of course, but that's where that angle comes from. It's more laid back than a normal chair. You're relaxing more. I may build a footstool for these at some point, but it really lends itself well to kind of putting your feet up. So that was the angle I was going with trying to match these up as well. And I found a fairly easy way to do that. As you can see in here, all we're doing is creating a square. These are all 90s. And again, this basic idea I've copied from other people, but you get the idea. And then it's just a matter of, if you wanted to adjust things, you adjust these lengths. So the arm length doesn't really affect your angle anyway, but you get it to wherever you want. Same with your back. You could make it taller, shorter. It doesn't affect your angle any. These two do affect your angle, of course. Your front leg and your back leg. So, making this longer, tilt it up more. Making this longer, tilt it up this way more. So you kind of play with it to get to where you want. So I'm going to share the measurements as I go along. And you'll see the ones that I picked to go with this one, which seems to come up with a fairly standard looking chair. So that gives you your two sides, of course. The other two parts you have to it are the spindles that go across, 4 spindles you can see here, that go across from side to side, that give you your width of your chair, and that's really up to whatever you want. So for this one, I believe, I'm going by memory here, but I believe it's 20 inches between here. So the spindles are 23 inches. They go in 1.5 inches on each side, the tenons. And of course the seat in the back. And I just had a log that was kicking around that I had used for something else. And I just slabbed it with the chainsaw, gave it a bit of a shape, rounded these off so they don't dig in behind your knee. Show you that. See, I just kind of rounded it off there. So all my parts are cut, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these inside, stick them in front of the heat pump for a few days, let them dry, and then I'll build the chair. They are there's two types of dry, as I kind of mentioned before. There's the, is the wood seasoned kind of dry, and then is the surface wet. These have been seasoned because they were standing dead wood. They're light, they're nice and dry. However, they've been out in the snow, so they're a little bit wet on the surface, and I'm sure it soaks in a bit. So the measurements are, and I'll go over this again when I put it together, but there's two of each one of these sizes, and there's 4 of these. So 2 20-inch longs are for the arms, 2 25-inch longs are for the front legs, and the 2 27-inch longs are for the back legs. And then the 2 30-inch long ones are for the backs. And then these just depend on your preference for the width of the chair. I just measured a couple of chairs I had kicking around and decided on 23 inches for the connectors to the side. So 2 of these will be going underneath the seat, 2 of these will go behind the back. 1.5 inches, 10 on each end, so 20-inch wide seat is what it actually ends up being. For these have just the tenons cut on each end, and then they go into the appropriate place on these. Each one of these has a tenon on one end and a hole on the other end to receive, and the hole is always 16 inches up. Again, once I go into the building, I'll go over that again. Angles that I was talking about, we've got our square here, so the angles are 90 degrees, so the holes are just drilled straight in. Easy breezy, right? So this is a back leg here, and again, when I was kind of measuring other chairs, some of the measurements and the angles were fairly convoluted and hard to remember, but this one's pretty easy. So all the angles are 90 for this side piece, and the measurements are 20 inches, 30 inches, 25 inches, and 27 inches. This one here. And the holes, again, since we're ending up with a square here, if we measure from the spindle end back, doesn't really matter which one you pick, it's just which one am I not going to be in the way of the camera. Let's go this way. They are 16 inches to the center from the end of the spindle. So from here back 16 inches, mark it, figure out the face the way we want it going. If there's a bow in it, you have to take that into account. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's fairly straightforward and easy to do. So this one, see where my thumb is there in the measurement. This is going to be sunk in here 1.5 inches, and 16 inches back is where the hole is for this. So they're all 16 inches. 16 inches, 16 inches, 16 inches, and 16 inches. So I do the 4 of those on each side, 8 of those. And then we just have to worry about 2 to support the bottom and 2 to support the back. So those ones we'll just measure off and drill. And those can kind of go, you can change it up per chair if you want. You know, it depends on the angle. I measured off an angle off another chair and got it to match on here. Really liked it the way it is. Since this one that I'm building is meant to kind of match this one, I'm going to put them in the same spots. All right, enough talking. Let's measure. These 4 do not get drilled. And all of these get measured 16 inches from the end. And these are all pretty straight. I was picking them out as I was picking. I think there was one of the arms is a little bent. That's all right. Let's make sure that's angled up. The rest, about picking where they're going. Which piece is this? This is a 27. So this is a front leg. God, I'm forgetting my measurements. Is that a back leg? That's a back leg. So that's a back leg, so a 27. So that's going to go from the ground back here up to the front leg here. So with this one, you can see it's checking already from drawing, and it's all here. I'll make sure that's facing down. There's no bow that says that it shouldn't go that way. And that way, the major, sorry, dog sneezing. The major checking will be facing down and won't be catching water and putting it in. So every one that we do, we're going to be taking a quick look at them. You can see some checking here. This one's got checking on both sides, so kind of pick the worst of it and face it down. So every one of them, you're making decisions like that to decide where things are going to go. All right, so this measurement is from the front legs, from the bottom of the front leg up is 12.5 inches. And again, I did all of the math to get the angles on these earlier, so I'm just copying the one that was already there. I'll do a separate video on the chair angles and table leg angles and how to get the splay and the rake and everything right. I can do another video on that later, but for this one, let's just keep it simple. Okay, so we have all of our spindles that we cut, drilled, tapered off the other day. So now I've got to sand each one of these, make life easier for later. It's way easier to do the main part of the sanding when they're like this rather than waiting till the chair is all together. Once it's all together, just do some finish sanding on any marks I do as I'm putting it together. So as exciting as it is, I'm not going to video all of the sanding. I'll do one here and then do the other ones off camera. So here we go, very exciting. you guys a little break from my voice there, but now I'm back. All right, so now we need to make the seat of the chair. So this is just a slab of wood that I made with my chainsaw, rough cut, obviously. First thing, cut it to length, match the other chair. Then you need to make sure that they sit flat. So of course the logs are round and the slab is pretty rough cut. So you just sand it until you have it so it doesn't rock when you put it down. Then you need to sand the actual seat of the chair. No real science to this, just remove all of the chainsaw marks and get it flat. Of course you could taper this if you wanted to. I didn't, I just made it flat. Then you want to round the front so it doesn't dig in the back of your legs. This is just preference. You can do this or not. I just use the chainsaw here to remove a bit of the wood a little faster. Then finish it off with the sander. I relieve the edges here just so there's no chance, or less chance I should say, of getting splinters. Repeat it on the second one, boom boom, fast, and you're done. Next we want to do the back of the chair. So it's very similar to the seat. Cut it to length, peel off some bark and stuff. So there's a lot of sanding, obviously. With the back, you have to sand both sides since you'll be able to see the back of it once it's finished. So a little bit extra sanding, but not, again, nothing very rocket science here. Like the seat, you have to make sure it sits flat against the logs, so you have to do some shaping there, and then it's just smoothing it out a bit. So this next bit is something I'm just adding in because it's the first time I've ever tried doing it, kind of chainsaw planing. I've seen it done before, but I've never tried it myself, and I gotta say I'm surprised at how well it worked out. You know, it's not planed as an electric planer, but it worked out pretty well. Once you get your shape done, then you sand it the same as the first one. I won't show that. And then you've got both of your boards ready to screw on and shape the top.